Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel and welcome back to another Xenoblade Chronicles 3 video. You can see I'm going live for this because it's rather impromptu, as was the news that Xenoblade Chronicles 3's Wave 4 DLC story has been data mined in the main files of the base game. And I sort of did expect this because this sort of thing did happen with Masha's art being in patch 1.2's files, and it seems that it's just reoccurred in Wave 3, where we now have info on Wave 4. So this is going to be a very spoiler-filled video. There is obviously caution to the wind. Have a grain of salt ready because we cannot trust everything that happens with today's media, but this is from the Xenoblade Chronicles Reddit, Discord, which did, I believe they were the ones who found Masha in the patch 1.2 files, so I would take a good sense of caution with this. With all that said, the purpose of this video is actually going to just be discussing what was data mined and just, sort of having fun with it because I already saw it was a little too late. But if you want to watch, go right ahead. If you don't want to watch, again, this could very well be real. It has a lot of spoiler territory. Please, I do not want you coming to me and saying, "Wah, you ruined this." Just don't watch the video. I've put a spoiler in the name. I am being very lengthy with this preamble to prevent you from seeing anything, but otherwise I'm going to be treating this as if it was fully real. Have a little fun speculating it. You're welcome to stick around with me, and let's get right into it. So this is going to be the big one right here, and it is every cutscene title that is going to be in the new story. I believe someone brought to my attention that there are 47 of these, and that is longer than Torna's. I think they had somewhere around the mid-30s. So let's just start going down these one by one. So this first one, Prologue, is all pretty much straightforward, but the Ouroboros power is something of interest, because if this is going to be that Founders prequel that we think it is going to be about, remember that the Founders didn't have this kind of power that Ouroboros of today did. Noah and Mio and the others could interlink, whereas I'm hypothesizing that these people in this current timeline could not. Remember that the Founders themselves didn't fully unlock the power of Ouroboros until their final confrontation with N, so this could just well be an indication of that. As for the next one, and this one really intrigues me, it is called Matthew's Past, and if I had to assume, Matthew is going to be the name of Founder Vandom, his actual name. And in true Monolith Soft fashion, this is a biblical name, and this is the name of one of the apostles of Jesus Christ. If we do a quick Google search of the name, you can see that his name translates to Gift of Yahweh, and he is actually the apostle that wrote the first gospel in the New Testament. So just some parallels right there for you. I actually think it's quite interesting because if this is the founder who founded the new city and it's based off the apostle who founded the first gospel in the New Testament, I don't know. I could just be spitballing here, but that's my take on it. Relics, again, I'm sort of thinking along the lines of that one quest in the base game where they had us find specifically relics of the older age. I can't really pin too much else beyond that. Colonies Collide could be a reference to perhaps colonies of Agnes and Kevis at that time still fighting amongst one another. Hey everyone, sorry to interject, but this is Yggdrasil from the future with a bit of new speculation regarding Colonies Collide and To Remain. As we know from the Founders statues, both House Rhodes and House Ortiz were of Keves and Agnian origin, and they fought against one another in a duel to the death. Colonies Collide and To Remain could very well be cutscenes involving the two of them, specifically when the other Founders come across them. As they're in a duel to the death and the colonies are fighting, it makes sense that if the two of them remain and they're the last one fighting, this could very well be when we come across them in the story that is to come. At the same time, the cutscene Clockless could very well be the cutscene that takes place where House Ortiz and House Rhodes Founders are freed from the power of the Flame Clock by the other Founders. Lastly, with regards to Founders Cassini and Raid, who resemble Rex and Shulk, well, now we know they are Rex and Shulk, or rather, those were their mentors, because the resemblance is just right there after we've seen the Wave 4 DLC preview. What's more though, did you notice that these are the only Founders that don't have a cause of death or explain when or how long they lived? In fact, House Cassini says they fought alongside the founders both physically and spiritually. So there's clearly something going along here where Rex and Shulk are going to be in the base game. Even though this is going to be a Founders prequel, they will be present for quite some time. In fact, Rex is going to potentially lose an eye, or will lose an eye. Meanwhile, Shulk is going to lose an arm. So there's going to be some trauma that's going to be happening either before the events of the playable game or during the journey. The console duo is another one of interest. Personally, I'm thinking this could be consoles just M and N. We know that N is probably most likely going to return based on the fact that N and Matthew, if we're going to be calling Founder Fandom that, are going to have some beef with each other. However, there is reason to assume that this could be talking about other consoles, and I will be bringing that up shortly. Struggle, training, whatever happens, Aurora Shelf, all of these sound pretty straightforward. Up to you. New prediction. New soldiers. Clockless is one that interests me personally because we do know that there are some founders that could have gone beyond the age of just their 10 years. Let's keep going down. Traces of battle, friends taking flight, and here is the one that confused me, Mobius W, which, if you remember, is this Mobius who you may or may not have seen depending on if you've done all the Ascension quests or not, because she appears only very briefly in Asher's Ascension quest for just a few moments of dialogue, where she seems to treat everyone as if they are puppets, and it's playtime, a little eerie. I do personally remember her because of the wacky helmet, but it'll be interesting to see if they throw other consoles and Mobius in the past, because of course some of them would be alive. Heck, while we're at it, maybe this is our chance to see a young Triton. But I digress. Fusion is going to be next, and this could perhaps be the first instance of the founders actually tapping into the full power of Ouroboros, if I had to guess. Again, I'm personally not even sure that founders Doyle and Vandam are related to one another, because Doyle's plaque says extant scant records suggesting that they were brother and sister. Again, I don't believe. And as you can see, as we're starting to go down, some of these names are just getting more and more intense. So, What Choice, Reunion, Bound by Fate, Pioneers, Colony 9. And we know that it exists because we saw this actually in the trailer. We saw an anti-air battery, and I predict that we will see and use Colony 9 as a main hub. That is the Colony 9 of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, to be exact. A Way to Live and Friendship is one that could potentially be returning from the previous games. I believe that was a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 theme, so maybe a little hope there. Ragmos Desolation is one that concerns me because I can't find anything related to Ragmos, and the few definitions I found for Ragmo were not entirely flattering to share or speculate on, so that's a just shot in the dark. I have no clue what that could be about, but it sounds grim, and that is not aided by the following one, Anguish. But then we're getting some extremely interesting ones, the next one being Sister. And if I had to take a stab at this one, this could easily be Tyrea. Next up, Raid, so we could perhaps be invading someplace, maybe Origin, because we can see that we're starting to get towards the end, maybe. Core Crystal, raiding Origin, what's in Origin, the giant massive core crystals that we saw, which likely will be divulged as to their reason for being there, or perhaps, you know, their core element of storing information and the dealings that they have with DNA, both human and Blade. So there is quite a lot that could be going on right there. Console from the past. This could perhaps be another confrontation, or perhaps be the first confrontation between N and Founder Vandam. Great-grandfather throws me for a loop then, because, you know, we only heard killing Granddad wasn't enough for ya, and that was Founder Vandam. But as for Great-grandpa, I am a little bit confused. Unless, of course, this could perhaps be a reference to Azurda, because I guess, you know, Rex calls him Granddad, or Gramps. And that would be quite interesting because, you know, all the Titans are dead, yet here we have this Titan who probably would be pretty healthy around this point in time. Creation of the worlds could be interesting. This could perhaps be another take on the recap of Klaus's creation of the two worlds, that being of Bionis and Mechonis, and of all rest. So we'll just have to see on that. The Decider is the next one, and that sounds like it could be involved in the middle of a battle. The night before, however, seems to indicate that things will be getting serious from there on out, or even more serious because this already sounds quite tense if you ask me. The Black Mountains, I assume, could perhaps be referring to the Orion Mountains. Again, if this is taking place in a very early stage of Aionios, the Orion Mountains are there in full splendor. Future. The future is yours. Seize your destiny. There's quite a lot that word means within Xenoblade Chronicles, huh? The one at the beginning. So a lot of this is going to start leaning into Alvis. You know, again, Alvis with, do you want to change it? The future. Alvis, I was there at the beginning and I will proclaim the end. Quite a lot to think about going on there. Part of the deal, I'm not quite sure what this could mean. Perhaps there was a bargain that was struck at some point between some of these characters, whether they are a deal with villains or a deal between heroes. We just don't quite know, obviously. Origin's memories. So we know that Origin has the core crystals, which do contain the memories of those blades, but more than that, Origin contains the memories of both worlds prior to their collision with one another. So there could be quite a lot going on there. Gondor's Path is another one that throws me for a loop because we know obviously Gondor in the base game, however she's quite young, unless Gondor refers to not one but two characters, that being whoever Monica might have named her daughter from in the past. You know that she had quite a lot of opposition from her daughter for being named that way, yet there may have been a reason for that all along. The arc makes me very excited because, as you all know from my speculation video, I potentially theorized that Origin, the Arc of Worlds, was a plausible name for this DLC story, and we know that the Origin is the technical arc carrying the memories of both Xenoblade 1's world and Xenoblade 2's world. What's more, Noah and the arc, you know, just putting one and one together. Klaus's world. This could be anything. This could perhaps be the true world that Klaus envisioned as he pressed the button that created both worlds of Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. This could perhaps just be a very sentimental piece and cutscene. Again, going back into the cutscene with Klaus and Galea. So I'm very keen to see what goes on, and especially because this is so close to the ending of the story. We only have 3 more after this. Niall's Dream, I believe. Niall is another biblical reference described as being the gift of God. So Niall being gift of God, yet we have Matthew being gift of Yahweh, and we know Yahweh is another interchangeable term with God in a lot of religious text. So this could perhaps just be a dream that Matthew has right before the confrontation, or perhaps maybe, you know, Alvis is showing him something similar to how he showed Shulk something at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I really can't say much more than that. Alpha. Again, another Alvis reference. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I just assume that Alvis is going to be present not only in the prelude to this story, which I originally assumed, but he will consistently be appearing in the Founders arc, and maybe a small part of this could allude to information taking place in a sequel part of the story. Release the Power is going to be the epilogue cutscene, and I'd have no clue what this one could be about. Perhaps Release the Power is the final fulfillment of Klaus's role, or perhaps the Zohar/conduit thing that we've come to expect, which should have disappeared at the end of 2. There's some latent power still remaining somewhere that is being just, you know, spread out. Perhaps it is the power of light being contained within Origin, or the power of the core crystals that are contained in there. There's honestly just so much to go off of, but I assume with Release the Power, there is some sort of new power being released throughout the world that is going to be affecting it and is going to lead us into the next part of the saga away from Klaus's saga. That's all I really have to say going in on these. There's just honestly quite so much, and that we could be speculating about this for hours. Let's move right on into the next bit. So the next part are going to be some campsite locations or locations that we'll be visiting along the way in our journey through this rather fresh Ionios in the Founders prequel. Again, if we are assuming that's going to be the case. Springside Camp, Battlefield Camp, Elevator Camps. You know, some of these sound pretty straightforward, or they could be new locations. Colony 9 Camp is the first one that intrigues me right here, because of course Colony 9 is going to be a location. Again, we saw it on the left-hand side of the Bionis leg area. Black Mountain Camp being the next one of interest because that potentially ties in to one of the cutscene names which involved Black Mountains. Again, I think it's somewhere related to Uriah, or perhaps even Valak Mountain, you know. Lakeside Camp, you know, I think of Cooley Lake every time I think of a lakeside, but also there's the main watering hole in Gar Plains, and that probably matches up with the description of the next known campsite, Ragwell Bridge South Camp. Again, we've likely already seen Ragwell Bridge. I mean, we have, it's in the trailer, but we've also seen it behind Founder Vandom in that part of the cutscene. Old City Street Camp is the next one, and it is quite a lot to take in because you know that N destroyed the old city. Meanwhile, Founder Vandom is one of the people who built and founded the new city, so we could very much be getting some sort of campsite within those old grounds. So perhaps we could be setting up camp here while the wreckage is still fresh. Valak Peak also highly intrigues me because we only know about Capricorn Peak, and we can assume that to the right of Bionis' leg is the Capricorn Peak, and it's just dawning on me. Valak Peak, Capricorn Peak, maybe there was a parallel there all along, but I didn't feel it when I was exploring Capricorn Peak. Regardless, it'll be nice if we have a new icy zone that is, you know, not Capricorn Peak, a little wider, a little more exploratory, something like that. The last one, however, Prison Island Camp. If Prison Island returns, I do not know what to think. We know that Prison Island had the gateway to enter Zanza's domain in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and if we take a look at the start of the 15 seconds that we got for Xenoblade Wave 4, the skybox looked entirely as if Zanza was shining down on us, only of course it's Alvis, and yet the floor is Origin, so what is going on there? And that's it really, you know, we have these campsite locations, we have these cutscene indications for, you know, again, 47 cutscenes with their names all here. Hey everyone, it's Future Yig here, and sorry to interject again right at the end, but we actually have a third leak that was just found a few hours ago, and thankfully right before I exported this video, so lucky me, huh? Now, this is being hypothesized as information in a character or party menu that is showing off at least 5 characters at this moment. We can quickly see Matthew at the top, again another point suggesting that Founder Vandom's name will likely be Matthew. And we can also see Shulk and Rex at the bottom, which if true will indicate that they aren't only just joining us as mentors to 2 of the founders on their journey, but will actually be able to play as them as well. But the big takeaway are these 3 new names, A, Nicole, and Kaguroi. I don't really have anything for A or Nicole, but Kaguroi can actually be translated to meaning shimmering heat, the haze of heat, or the glow of dawn. So this could actually be another one of Rex's kids, maybe Pyra's. With that said though, I'm expecting that we will have more than 5 playable characters. These are just what was found in the file so far. I personally expect that the game will have at least 7 to 9 units, since it seems Rex and Shulk will be playable, and I guess it also depends on whether or not the 7th founder will be a consistent staying member within Team Founders. Again, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to stay on top of all of these leaks. Cheers. So there's quite a lot to think about in the next few days, and of course, again, this is from a data mine group, but of course we cannot take these word for word until, you know, it's actually in the game, or we seemingly get something from Nintendo or Monolith Soft that tips us off on the validity of these leaks. So that is going to be the end of it, guys. I know this was a lot of info, and I know, again, huge grain of salt, but I think that this was quite a fun thing to discuss, and if you enjoy discussions about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, speculating, news, analysis. I have got you covered. I know there's a few of you guys here who are new to this channel, so thank you very much for choosing to stick around, but that is where we are going to be leaving this video for now. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but please be mindful of these spoilers again. And with all that said, I hope you all have a great day.